For most of the first quarter of the year, Kenyans have been pretty angry at the country's only power distribution company, Kenya Power, and it all has to do with their power bills. So imagine, for argument's sake, you're used to getting a power bill of, say, $20, $30 every month, and then one day, completely out of the blue, you get a $400 power bill. That's left a lot of Kenyans angry, and they're all coming back with one simple question. How exactly is electricity priced in this market? How are these prices arrived at? Well, we're going to explain that using cake. Think of this cake as your power bill. I've cut it up into 8 parts that make up your bill. So part 1, that everyone has, is a fixed charge. You pay that regardless of whether or not you actually consume any power. Started out about $1.20 in 2013. It's since been adjusted annually to well over $1.50 at current exchange rates. Next, the energy charge. Now that varies depending on how much you consume. The more of the slice you do consume, the more it costs you. The first 50 units just cost you 2.5 US cents each. The next 14.49, 11.6 US cents. Anything past that, nearly 20 cents a unit. So then, let's run the numbers on this one. If you consume, say, just 50 kilowatt hours of electricity, your bill, your energy charge is a fairly reasonable $1.25. It's not much, but if you double the amount of energy that you have consumed, from 50 to, say, 100 kilowatt hours, then the math changes completely. Your energy charge goes up by more than 6 times. And that is not by accident. The tariff designers did this for 2 very specific reasons. One, to make electricity for those at the lowest end of the income pyramid a lot more accessible. So those of you consuming a lot more power are effectively subsidizing those at the very bottom. But the flip side of that argument is this. The more expensive charges right at the top are there to incentivize you to use your electricity a lot more efficiently. But keep this in mind because it influences everything else we're going to talk about. The next 3 slices of this cake, they attract the most confusion and anger because they cover fuel cost adjustment, foreign currency charges, and inflation. In its most basic form, the FCA is there to cover the cost of using fossil fuel power generators, things that run on diesel and that sort of thing. The more of those Kenya uses, the higher this charge becomes. By February 2018, 30% of Kenya's power came from plants like these. The foreign currency charge is a component that attracts quite a bit of eye, but it's there for a very specific reason. Put yourselves in the shoes of, say, a generator, right? You've spent dollars importing equipment, buying fuel, your debt facilities, if you have any, they're likely to be priced in American dollars. But what are you billing in? That's in the Kenyan shilling. Now, if there's a mismatch between these two, who has to bear that cost? The way this tariff is designed, it's ultimately you as a power consumer who takes up the burden of that variability in the exchange rate between the dollar and the Kenyan shilling. Now, as far as the inflation adjustment is concerned, that is pretty straightforward. It happens twice every single year, and it's there because, let's be honest, the value of the Kenyan shilling today isn't what it was, all else being equal, a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. The last bits are all about the L word, levies. There is a water levy that goes to the Water Resource Management Authority to take care of all the hydroelectric dams this country so deeply relies on. 3 US cents for every kilowatt hour of power you consume, that goes off to pay the regulator, the ERC. 5% of all the revenue from all these energy units, that goes to fund a rural electrification program. Wait, there is one last bit to this entire bill. Everything we've discussed before, add it all up and apply 16% VAT on top of all of that. Yes, I know, it feels unfair, but that is essentially how these prices are set up and structured. And that is how you end up with a situation where the cost of the actual energy you do consume, in some cases, like mine, was actually just 40% of the bill that you actually do end up paying. That basically is how your power bill is structured. Unfortunately, it's not as sweet as a cake we've been using for this example, but it is what it is.